What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Dead on Dave. Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to do a quick news update. We're going to talk about some stuff that I did not get to yesterday because of my daughter's birthday, and I did not want to include it in the NXT review that I will be doing shortly after this. So there's a bunch to talk about, and I want to get into it because lordy, 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 I enjoy being right, but at the same time, I hate being right about this. Daniel Bryan has been pulled from the European WWE tour. Now, Dave Meltzer is reporting that basically since WrestleMania, even maybe a little bit before, Daniel Bryan has been in rough shape. He's been hurt. It all stems from the neck and elbow injuries that he's had in the past. Here's the problem. Daniel Bryan decided not to get a surgery. WWE was recommending that he did so. He said, no, I don't want to do that. I would much rather have an experimental rehab so I can get back and everything will be hunky-dory and all that. WWE did not want him to do that. They wanted him to get healthy. The problem is Daniel Bryan fancies himself, by his own words, an artist in the ring, and he hates being told to modify his art form. These are his words. These are not my words. It was an interview over WrestleMania weekend. He does not like the fact that WWE wants him to work safer. He does not like the fact that WWE wants him to cut down on the way that he abuses his body in the ring. And he does. He takes unnecessary bumps, or at least he was. Since he's come back, he has been much easy on his body, much more easy on his body. I understand that you work a certain way. I get that. But you have to protect yourself. You have to take care of yourself. And if you don't, it's completely okay for an organization to ask you to work a little bit differently. In fact, it's something we, as hardcore wrestling fans, have been complaining about for a long time. Is that the WWE has let guys abuse their bodies to the point where they, die in their 40s, or have such bad brains that they go friggin' nuts and murder their families. There's such a double standard here. And it's such bullshit because so many wrestling fans are upset. They get upset over the fact that WWE is holding Daniel Bryan back. And WWE is trying to keep him down, which has never been the friggin' case, by the way. Daniel Bryan makes them money. Anybody who thinks that they're trying to hold, that they're putting him in the position within the company that they think can capitalize the most. Look, it is completely okay if they did not want to give him the belt because they knew something was wrong with him for a long time. It is completely okay if they did not want to give him a long heavyweight title reign if he was going to have injury problems, which he has shown that he has. You can't push somebody that you do not have confidence in can have a long run. All the yes movements in the world doesn't change that. Do you know how WWE learned this? They learned it with Kurt Angle. And this is reminiscent of the Kurt Angle situation. Daniel Bryan does not seem to be very pleased with the fact that the WWE is having him change his style and maybe now even holding him off of events. He hasn't been on Raw in 2 weeks. The matches that he's been on ever since WrestleMania has been 6-man tags. It's been, tag team matches, and he's been working very little. And I'm sure this perturbs him. Well, guess what? This is kind of similar to what happened with Kurt Angle. He was so physically beat the hell up that WWE didn't want to touch him. So they let him in. And then what did he do? He goes to TNA. He never gets himself right. He goes on friggin' prescription drugs and non-prescription drugs and friggin' alcohol like crazy. Gets DUIs, ruins his friggin' life. Gets in all kinds of shit. Turns it around, admittedly. He does turn it around. It seems he's been clean for a long time. Hasn't had another DUI. And that's fine. But he has taken years off his life up there, and they don't want to see that same thing happen to Daniel Bryan. And by the way, Daniel Bryan's not as big or as athletically gifted as Kurt Angle. And that's not a knock on Daniel Bryan. Kurt Angle's a friggin' Olympian. All right? He's an elite of the elite athlete. And his shit is all messed up. And he wrestled with a broken freaking neck. Remember? And that does not mean that Daniel Bryan is able to do the same. You know, he works, and people can say, well, if Cena can have a neck surgery and come back and be completely fine. No, stop. Stop. They're not the same wrestler. They're not the same performer. Daniel Bryan is a much more dynamic performer. He does moves and puts himself in situations that are harmful to his neck. He puts himself at risk. And by the way, he's not only dealing with the neck. There are reports that he still needs to have Tommy John surgery on his elbow. For a non-thrower, that's 6 months. You know, I mean, Jesus. The reality is the guy should walk away now, take a year off, come back next year's WrestleMania. What's wrong with that? Take some time, get right. He's 33. He's not 38. You know, he's 33, 34. Get right. Get right now and salvage a good 5-year stretch. What is wrong with that? But people want to complain and bitch and moan and talk about how it's WWE being unfair. Well, you got guys like CM Punk who are saying the WWE doesn't do anything for their athletes. They don't give a shit. Well, I think they do. And I don't think they want any of their guys to not be able to work, because guess what? They wouldn't be able to make them money. So I don't know. I do know this. This is a big reason why I was talking about why he had no business being in the ring with Brock Lesnar. And it's obviously why they decided to alter any idea of that happening. Can you imagine what Brock would have done to this guy? Yeah, I know that Daniel Bryan has taken some bumps and stuff since he's returned, but man, still, and maybe you can go to and say, well, WWE should have never put him in the ladder match while this is true. Well, you can't force a guy not to compete, all right? And you can alter the way he does things. You can try to put him in spots that limit the damage. He didn't take a lot of nasty spots in that match, by the way, at WrestleMania. It was other guys who were taking the really nasty ones. And, it's unfortunate that this shit has happened. And we don't know that Daniel Bryan was completely messed up going into that. We only know that after it is when the problems really started to flare up again. It's a rough situation. I don't want to see Daniel Bryan leave. I love Daniel Bryan. I think he's a fantastic performer. But you cannot continue to run yourself to the ragged edge, man. It's an early death. You're just, even super vegan, it's an early death. And, so I hope that he gets himself right. I hope that this is overblown. It's very possible that all of this talk that Meltzer is spouting off is overblown, and it's nowhere near as bad. I hope that's the case. We're going to find out really soon. It's going to be really unfortunate if they have to strip him again. I think this kind of locks in more than likely he is dropping the belt to Bad News Barrett at Extreme Rules. I think that's probably very likely. And if he doesn't do it there, if they don't want him to drop it to him, then they do it the next night. Do it the next night on Raw. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to see him get stripped again. I think that sucks. But at the same time, you can't let him keep going if it's going to risk something long term. I'd rather lose him for a year than the rest of his career. What do you guys think of Daniel Bryan? Should he be taken out of action permanently? Should he just step away? What would you think if this is the end of Daniel Bryan's career at such a young age? Let me know in the comment section below. This isn't the only big news that's going on in the world of wrestling right now. We also have some shockwaves being sent, if you want to call them that. Recently, Steve Austin went on his podcast, and he seemed very perturbed, at least a little bit. Maybe it was just a little bit of work, but he did not seem happy with the idea that John Cena is using a modified version of his stunner. In fact, Austin would go on to say that he feels that the springboard aspect really does heighten up the dangerousness and the potential for catastrophe. Especially, and he didn't have to say this, but I'm going to add on to this. I made the same point the other day. John Cena is not the greatest athlete in the world. He's not. He does some really weird stuff sometimes in the ring. He's botched many high-risk maneuvers over the course of his career, and it worries me that this could end in potential danger for him or somebody else. Also, but he goes on to say, he uses the word gimmick infringement, which is fine. I think that's all bullshit. But he does talk about how, and he said this is almost exactly what I said the other day, that Austin believes that the stunner should mean something. And for Cena to use it as a secondary move doesn't really make a lot of sense. And that was my position. I didn't think it made a lot of sense for him to use the move and it not get a 3 count. It makes no sense. Why not make the move badass? If you're going to use it at all, if you're going to take the risk of adding a springboard into a stunner, at least make it mean something. But they didn't, and it's weird, and it's dangerous. It is dangerous. Do not take that out of consideration for a moment. It is. Austin is 100% right here. But it's interesting that Austin is now moving against the top guy in WWE just a week after talking about how there's no beef. Now, it's very easily explained that maybe there isn't a beef and this is legitimate, but at the same time, maybe there's something more going on here. Maybe Austin does have beef. Maybe he was jilted. Who knows? There's a whole bunch of interesting things because he could have addressed this in a different way, but Austin's Austin. He's going to do what he does, and that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so, and that's just about it. So what do you think? Should John Cena even be using this move? And if he does, do you think it's just a matter of time before somebody, probably himself, gets hurt? Slipping off the ropes and going right through him or something. I mean, I could see it happening. It's just, and should it mean something? Should this stunner mean something? All right, moving on. Let's talk about a New England Patriot tight end. No, not that one. He'll be rotting in jail for quite a long time. Rest of his natural life. And thank God for that. Massachusetts, you got it right. No, I'm referring to their current stud tight end, Rob Gronkowski, who is a huge WWE fan. In fact, there's a video online of him not that long ago after he had a broken arm giving a stunner to somebody in a nightclub. Gronk loves wrestling. And in fact, he would be open to joining the WWE someday. He has a friend in NXT, and he would like to either be a manager someday. He's open to managing wrestling or all of it. He would love to be a WWE performer someday. And you know what? I think it'd be kind of cool to see a monster like Gronkowski in the WWE. Now, it's going to be no time soon because he's one of the most dynamic players within the NFL. But he is young, very young actually. And by the time he retires from the NFL, which could be in his early 30s, plenty of time to become a wrestler. So what do you think of the possibility of Gronkowski becoming a WWE performer? Pretty interesting. Bobby the Brain Heenan, Hall of Famer, this week had another surgery. This was kind of out of nowhere. Not a lot of people were talking about it. This has to do with his jaw work yet again, some more equipment for his jaw. But he had the surgery, and he's said to be doing very well. Thank God for that. Love Bobby the Brain Heenan, and we wish nothing but the best for him. And I'm hoping that he'll be around for a long time. God, I wish he could still work. I know that people get old and die, and that's what happens. But I don't think there's any performer I miss, and I mean that talent, announcer, whatever. I don't think there's anyone I miss more than hearing Bobby Heenan talk. I love the Brain. I absolutely do. And the fact that commentary is so terrible nowadays only gives it extra emphasis. Because, God, commentary sucks, doesn't it? Oi. Finally, we're going to end with another commentary note. Tazz is officially gone from TNA. Now, there was a lot of speculation that this was going to happen because he's been ripping them in public and stuff lately. And there has said to be a lot of issues with him and TNA for a very long time. But the final straw seems to have been that, once again, TNA having issues paying its performers and wrestlers not getting their paychecks on time. And now wrestlers are getting like 2 or 3, or in Matt Hardy's case, 5 paychecks at once to try to make up for the backlog of not getting paid. Well, Tazz is gone from TNA now. He's done, and I'm sure he's going to tell all, probably during his podcast, about exactly what happened and what his plans are for the future. Now, the logical question is, does he come back home, to WWE, not really home, but and become an announcer again for them? People would say, God, please no, because Tazz is pretty horrible. But is he that big of a downgrade from some of the guys they already have now? And more importantly, giving him a little bit of more established talent, even though talent is maybe pushing the word a little bit, but give an established announcer, someone who has some experience, it's not a bad thing adding him to the roster of announcers within the WWE right now, especially if they want to make SmackDown and Raw a little more unique and have more completely separate broadcast panels. I would like to see that. Just completely. I know that you have Booker on Raw now and King on SmackDown, but I just like to see a little bit more diversity, and it would be cool. Tazz doing some NXT work. That'd be kind of cool too, seeing him call matches down there. I think it's a very good possibility with Vampiro probably out of Lucha at some point, if he's not already, for all we know. At some point, Tazz could be a natural replacement there, working with Matt Striker, which for some people is probably the worst combination in the history of anything. But it is what it is, and I think it would be a pretty interesting thing to see where Tazz goes next. So where do you think Tazz goes? Is he going to be gone from the industry for long, or do you think he'll find a job very soon? Let me know in the comment section below. So that's all the news I got. Thank you guys for joining me right here on this news update right here on Dead on Dave Productions, and make sure you stay tuned. A little bit later we will be doing the NXT review. That's right, I'll be doing a live review, watching it, and then boom, giving you my analysis on each and every single segment as I view it. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you also check out everybody else within the community. Tommy C and I absolutely tore the house down on In the Crease last night. A lot of fun. Absolutely had a blast doing that. That's over on Shot from the Point on YouTube. Check that out. Like, subscribe, and share there. Joe Cronin of the Joe Cronin Show. Make sure you're checking out everything that's going on over there as well. We're ripping shit up. We had monetized this the other day. It was crazy. So we got a lot of stuff happening. Make sure you're checking everybody out. Grand Slam 87 over on YouTube as well. That's Jeff Huffman and his sports channel where he talks sports over video game footage, and it's very interesting and a lot of fun. Also, I guess check out Black Mamba. I guess he has a channel. I have no idea what his friggin' name is because I'm horrible. Full plug coming for Mamba, as long as he pays me for it. No, I'm kidding. Find Black Mamba. You know what? He comments in the comment section all the time. All you got to do is click on his name. It'll take you to where his channel is, and you go ahead and give him a sub. Real easy. Other than that, that's all I got. Thanks for joining me. We will see you next time right here on Dead on Dave Productions. Peace.